So after 3 short films and a documentary, you decided to release a feature film this year. And could you please introduce yourself and tell us what your new film, Employee of the Month, is actually about?
I'm a Belgian director. When I started to make short film, in fact, I was also working in the film industry as an AD. So I was a bit the employee of the month. I mean, I was working a lot for very few money and having big responsibilities. But what I wanted to do and to be was a director. So I started making short films. And it took me some years to feel legitimate. I was also sent away from cinema school, and they told me I could never do anything in film industry and even bring a cup of coffee. So that was how I felt at that time. And so, as I said, it took me some years to feel legitimate, and after that, it took me other years to get funded. And so that movie, Employee of the Month, is about equal pay, about recognition, and also I don't always feel very at ease on what you have to do as a director to get the money. When I'm working as a director, I feel really at ease. I like the artistic work. I like to write, to work with actors and everything. That's really the perspective of look what I can do, look at me, that I sometimes don't like very much.
Okay. That was very, very interesting to hear. So I was wondering, the subgenre of office horror, if I can state it like that, has gained quite some popularity over the last years. And why do you think The Office is an interesting setting for a horror movie?
To begin, there was a really easy reason. It's that this film was written to be low budget. And so I had to choose, my idea was to choose just one place. And that place, choosing The Office was quite easy, because in The Office you have people that haven't chosen themselves. Maybe they don't like each other, or even they hate each other, and they have to stay for hours at the same place. So this was the first reason. There was another reason. I was such a huge fan of The Office with the English series with Ricky Gervais. So it was another reason. And also The Office is really an interesting place to watch on power relation and on the question of domination, or the question of capitalism, I think. And so that's why I thought it was interesting to go there. And why horror is going there, because there's a great Korean film from 2015 whose name is Office, and it's an horror movie in The Office also about domination. It's really a great film. So yes, because why horror? Because I'm really afraid of annoying people. And so I thought that making film genre using comedy and horror permits to talk about something that's really touching me, moving me, interesting me, but trying not to annoy the audience.
It does make lots of sense now to me, I have to say. To me, when watching the movie, it seemed like everything was pretty much over the top. Everyone except Ines and Melody is a huge asshole. Everyone is extremely sexist. So I was wondering, do you think that offices like that really exist? Because the reality can be quite an asshole sometimes. Or did you overplay it a bit for comedic effect?
Just a small remark. For example, you say all the male, all the characters, Ines and Melody, are assholes. But for example, the boss, Patrick, who gets killed quite quickly, for me, and I do always find that months after having made the film, that character for me is quite touching. He's an asshole, but he's also a guy you feel touched by him, I think. So yes, it's a comedy and it's a bit over the top, but now that public screening have begun, I already heard a few times that women in the audience said, "Oh, it's all my life is here on the screen." So maybe, of course, it's a bit exaggerated. That's, I think, the idea of a comedy, but maybe it's not so much exaggerated.
So I read that you are fascinated by comedy, and still there aren't too many horror comedies, I would say, in comparison, for example, to the various slashers out there. So why do you think the combination of horror and comedy is a good fit?
I think that comedy has always interested me since I'm a kid, and maybe I was just raised in a family where we were watching comedies all the time, so maybe that's just one part of the answer. And for horror movie, in fact, my companion is really, really a great fan of horror movies, and so for years now I'm watching some, but maybe I was not, it was just something like being in that middle. Finally I was interested.
I was rooting for the two main characters, Ines and Melody, so much from the very beginning, and I think that was quite lovely that I could feel for them so quickly. And I have to say, I was hoping that they will be badass killers and beat up everybody, because obviously I was so angry, but as you just stated, they have to defend themselves. So why did you decide against making them badass killers who just want revenge?
So it was a question when preparing the movie. The main actress, Yasmina Douyev, playing Ines, she wanted to make a really badass character who finishes with all the hair like this and with stone clothes and everything. But I thought about it, and I found that, in fact, Ines, who's quite a part of myself, is a loyal and honest person, courageous, and that turning her in a murderer, happy murderer, was a possibility, was not just with the character. And the idea, that option I choose, I think, means more, significates more that that's the society who turns her into a violent person and a serial killer, and that she doesn't appreciate that.
What I found pretty fascinating was how varied Employee of the Month is, if we want to talk about the female characters a bit more, because not only do you show how the male co-workers behave towards their female peers, but also how other women treat each other. And I think this is a very interesting point. There is the female area manager who doesn't care that the women in the company are severely underpaid. And I think that was a very powerful and shocking moment, because usually you would think that women always stick together, always have their backs and everything. So this was, to me, this was a very strong moment, and I think something that many women might have experienced themselves. And do you feel like the lack of support between women can be a problem as well, especially maybe in office dynamics?
In reality, gender should not matter, as with skin color, social background or anything, but in fact it determines so much our path, the path of everyone. And so it's fascinating to observe that women, black, poor people, in fact, we are more numerous than the dominant ones. And if we join and go together, then we would make a better world. But it's not working like that, because of course it's not because you are a woman or a poor people or a black people that you are a good person, and patriarchy has a lot of faces. And of course, dominant women, sometimes they had to fight so much to be there where they are, that they've been changed, but what they've been through, and so they are part of patriarchy. And of course they believe that if you are not well paid, it's your problem, and in fact it's not it's a structural problem and not the problem of of one person only.
Okay. I just want to talk about Ines for a bit, because there's actually one instance where she questions if another character, I'm not giving it away, that another character experienced something horrible, and she's questioning this. And I was very shocked by this, I have to say. I guess that's something you were going for. So I was wondering, why did you decide against making her the shining hero? We've talked a bit before about this, but also showing that she has some sexist undertones herself, maybe. Why did you decide for this?
But the idea, it was to make a feminist movie, but also maybe not realistic, as you said. Everything is over the top, but to say that every one of us, and me, I'm a part of that, and Ines is a part of me, in fact, I'm also crossed by a lot of biases, judgments, and unfortunately, I have racist thoughts, and I have to deal with, even if I would like not to have that. And so, yes, everyone is a product of the society he grew up. I grew up in the Catholic petty bourgeoisie, and of course, I would like not to be like that, but sometimes I have to think about how I act and what I say. And so, yeah, Ines is like this too.
Obviously, you are putting so much of yourself in this movie. Did I get this right? That's yeah, like I said, it's quite impressive. Aren't you scared that the movie is too personal, and aren't you scared to put too much of your personal life in a movie?
No, because my personal life is totally different also. But making a movie, and especially everywhere, I think making a feature is so hard and takes so much time and so much energy. I think that the only interest is to make something that permits you as a human being to make progress, to think about things and everything. So I think that's the only way to make something, and even maybe an alien movie is to put off your soul in the movie. Well, I think there's a link between the director and the movie, always.
I want to talk about a bit more about you as a female filmmaker, and I personally have the impression that female directors tend to find a fresh and different perspective, especially how to portray violence and terror in horror movies. To name some example, Karen Kusama in Jennifer's Body, or Julia Ducournau in Raw and Titane. But obviously your view as an actual director might differ, but I was wondering, do you think movies made by women exist? And if yes, what sets them apart?
In fact, it's tricky to answer that question, because I would say, okay, when you make a movie, like when you have a pen to write or a brush to paint, your sex doesn't change how you make it. But definitely, and especially in movies, there's really a lack of women director. But cinema school are full of girls, but they disappear after. And of course, there are numerous reasons, and that movie is made, for example, by male. The way they film the actresses, for example, sometimes I say, oh, films from the 80s, I say, oh, I cannot watch this anymore, and it's really boring. So maybe on that way, movies made by women are more fresh or more interesting, and showing things from another point of view. And it's true that on female characters, for example, women directors for the moment are making interesting things.
There's lots of very old slashes, for example, have lots of sexist undertones, so much violence against women, and there are so many, especially horror movies, where it seems like it's like a checklist. Okay, violence against women, there has to be a rape scene, all those things, which I come to realize that many female filmmakers don't use those old tropes, or maybe I was lucky to just see the right movies. But are there any tropes there that used to be overused by those usually male directors? Are there any stuff that you would say, oh, I'm so done with this?
Yes, and that's what you say. And sometimes, no, when I'm watching old movies, that's the problem. Saying, for example, women are always punished. Women are not defending themselves. Women are submitted. And also that's an idea, and that's what I wanted to make in my movie and all the contemporary movies made by women, is that we say, okay, we can take arms too. We can defend. We don't have to be punished, even if we are sexy or not, and we are not obliged to be sexy. But those things are interesting, but they are not, it's not the way we make movies who's different. Maybe I can make an exception on that further. It's the where we are in the society and what we know and what we want to encourage. Yes.
You being a director, could you share your experience if there are maybe certain factors that make it harder for female directors to succeed in this industry? Because before you said they are definitely there, because, you know, sometimes people say, there aren't any women interested in filmmaking. It's just like that. But I know that this is not true. So are there maybe any factors that make it harder to succeed in this industry?
Yes, there are so many factors. In fact, for example, there's one, producers are often, there are more male producers, and it's now known by studies that male producers produce more men, and some only men. And when you have female producers, they produce more male and female. And so I don't know what's the situation in Germany, but for example, in Belgium, female producers, they are less, they are more in documentary or in short films, but not in features. There's also other studies that show that the more you have money, the less you have women. For example, in Belgium, we have quite a lot of women in short films and documentaries, but in feature, it's less and less. And for high budget, there are no women. And also there's something in everyone's mind, maybe also in women's mind, that it's hard to make a movie, it's hard to take the budget, and a man is going to be better on the set with 100 person and with a lot of money. And probably it's not true. But you can put it, if you look, for example, on the political way, you had a woman important, but on all Europe and over the world, it's when are we going to have a French president woman, an American president as a woman? It's a long way.
So to more delightful things, I read that you play as a right back in a football club. And I was asking myself, would you maybe at some point like to direct a movie about football?
Yeah, in fact, I'm writing a series about amateur football female league. So I'm trying to advance on it. And in fact, I'm for 5 years in that team, and I was just beginning football, so quite late in my life. And it's really something important, and I think it even changes my way of my professional way, in fact, because that was the first time I was allowed on the terrain, on the football place, to push people to exist with my body, and that my body was not just something who has to be pretty for society or everything, but it can be useful, run, push, take advantage. And it was really really interesting for me, and also the idea that you can just play the match, be the better you can be, and there's no problem. You don't have to apologize or to let men win, because I play in a female league, so there are no men, and it was really interesting for me to play, to be authorized to play the game and maybe to win. It was a big issue in my life to be allowed to win, I think, for educational stuff reasons.
Okay, I'm very, very excited to see that. Do you know when it's going to be out? Are there any plans yet?
No, not yet. Just writing for the moment. No.
Oh, okay, I see, no problem, yeah. And so I have to think, I'm still thinking about the fact that you said you kind of connect with Ines, and there's a little bit of you in there, because Ines, like you said, and when you have watch the movie, she tries to be very perfect, I see. She wants to look nice. She wants to be always very friendly to the customer. She's trying her best to do the best job ever. And do you think from your experience that women tend to want to be that perfect because they feel like they are not enough and that they have to show that they are enough? Maybe that's a connection to the film industry as well.
Yes, and it's also proved on studies that in fact, as a woman, you don't have the right to fail. And for example, women director that made a bad movie, they consider to themselves they are dead as a director and they go somewhere else. And in fact, as a director, you can fail a movie. It's okay. It's art. It's art. You try something, and if you try not making a receipt but trying something you hope it's new, you can fail, and it's okay. And you can watch in the film history, there are a lot of directors, they missed one movie, okay, and then the next one we hope is better, and they continue, and it's okay. And women, when they have a fail, just for themselves, they already stop. I don't say that film industry is happy to see you when you fail the movie, but often women are from themselves leaving the highway and going to hide.
I see, yeah. Okay, my last question would be, could you name some movies that served as inspiration for Employee of the Month?
Yeah, so I'm going to begin with series, so The Office, definitely, and also a pinch of Breaking Bad. But for movies, certainly Thelma and Louise was so moving to me when I watched the film, and I watched it again preparing this film. And what I wanted was the two female characters not to be punished, because in fact, at the end of Thelma and Louise, that everyone knows, in the ending scenes, you have the feeling that they have power and they won, but in fact, they are going to be punished on a very hard way because they are going to die. So Thelma and Louise was really important to me. I think when I saw it when I was a teen, it was the first time I saw women taking power and having revenge. So this film, there's also an English movie whose name is Sightseers.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, I love that film so much. I've seen it tons of times. So yes, this was a really important film to me. And there are also films from French directors, but I don't know if you know them, but I think they had a Gold Bear in Berlin a few years ago. It's Kervern and Delépine, two crazy guys, French, and there was a film whose name is Louise Michel, and in fact it's very funny. That's a woman working in a factory. The factory gets moved in an eastern country, so and the workers, the women, they just received very few money, and they decide to put all that money together and to hire a killer who's going to kill the owner of the factory. But in fact, of course, the killer is not a killer, and he has never done that. And the owner, and they cannot find the owner of the factory because it's always upper, and it's very funny because they have to go to islands where, Virgin Islands, I don't know what. So it's quite a very funny film, Louise Michel. So.
Okay, I'm going to definitely check this one out. Thank you very, very much for the interview. It was a real pleasure. And for those people out there, go watch Employee of the Month. Or if you have seen it already, I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone and to you.